Welcome back. In today's episode, we have the conclusion to the interview with Steve Robbins, the genius behind Get It Done Guy podcast with over 23 million downloads. Steve discusses in today's episode the importance of identity and how it plays a key factor in your success.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. You know, we look at high performers so often and we look at the traits that they have and we start to draw some similarities between different types of business. But sometimes those very traits that make them high performers are also, it gets in the way. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm in the middle of doing 200 coaching interviews with people. I'm designing some products and some classes and decided that I want to design these based upon data rather than designing them based upon what I think people need. I want to find out what people really do need. And I'm doing these interviews, among other things, with people who are really high performers. And I have discovered some patterns that are just almost funny. They're almost funny if they weren't sad. What is the one thing a high performer never does, by definition? And that is not get results. So when you have a high performer and you put the high performer in a situation where they can't guarantee the results, they flip out. Everyone else in society has learned, they've learned how to get a C on a test. They've learned how to recover from failing at something and how to rebuild your reputation. In fact, they've even learned things like you don't die if you fail. But a lot of high performers, people who have never failed, they don't learn those lessons. To them, their identity is, I'm a high performer, and any data, it's not just information. It's not just, oh, look, well, you're a high performer when it comes to doing high-speed particle physics, but it turns out when it comes to rock climbing, you're not a high performer, at least not yet.
Yeah, you know, I had a personal experience myself when I went through my divorce. I have a core belief that anything I set my mind to, I can accomplish. And I was really working on the marriage, and it didn't work. And it was a real blow. It was like, wait a second, was my belief wrong? So I'm hearing you. It's very disturbing when something challenges that.
Oh yeah, and then a lot of high performers flip to the opposite. Like maybe I'm really stupid, the whole imposter syndrome thing. And the reality is no, you're human, and you are a very high performing human. But high performing doesn't mean perfect. High performing just means that you can get a lot of things done that a lot of other people can't, or that they take more time for. Yeah. So one trapdoor of high performers is that they don't get enough practice failing. And because they don't get enough practice failing, when things aren't going well, they may just not know what to do. So some of it is the identity thing where they flip out at it, and some of it is they don't actually know how to recover from failure because they just have never done it. So they're like, I don't know what to do if I'm failing because I've never failed before. Do I try harder? Do I keep doing the same things I've been doing but just more of them? Which of course, if you're failing, that's probably not the thing to do. But that's one big problem with high performers. Another one is there's a couple more. So one is that they don't know how to fail. Another one is they think they have to do everything themselves. Now some don't, but I have discovered that a lot of high performers are so good at doing so many things, and they can essentially learn anything they want to, at least anything they would have to use in business, that what happens is that if something needs doing, they assume that it's only appropriate for them to do it. And they have it doesn't occur to them to delegate things. And it certainly doesn't occur to them to delegate something if the person they're delegating it to wouldn't do as good a job as they would. But that's not really the standard. The standard is not would they do as good a job as the high performer. The standard is would they do a good enough job so the overall effort succeeds.
Yeah, and you know what I find also is that people, they think they're delegating, but they're not. They're just they're abdicating, and they're just throwing it on there saying, well, they should be able to figure it out and do it like I could do it without the direction.
Oh, God, yes. I have a business partner who is my business partner because he is both one of the most ethical human beings I've ever met in my life, and he is also one of the fastest learners and smartest people. And the trap door that we fall into every now and then is that I am more than twice his age. He's 21 years old. And I keep assuming because he picks things up so quickly and is so good at them, I kind of assume that I can toss him a very big task, the kind of task I would toss somebody with 15 years of work experience, and that he'll be able to deliver it perfectly. And instead, he simply delivers it at the 87th percentile instead of at the 100th. And I'm sitting here thinking, how could he have missed that? I'm like, Matt, how could you have not delivered that at the 100th percentile? And he's like, I've never been exposed to that topic before in my life. I learned it from scratch. And I'm like, oh, you mean if I had actually told you what it was that you should have done, you might have been able to do it even better? He's like, yeah. He's like, more than a one-line description would really have been useful.
Right. And when we were graduating college, he wasn't even a thought in his parents'.
Oh no. I mean, that's the thing that's so funny is I really think of him as being like, mid 40s in terms of capabilities. And then every now and then I notice that he's not. I'm like, right, he's still a college student. Jesus Christ. Yeah. And so I have made every effort to lock him up after school. I don't want anyone else to get the benefit because they'll cheat him. And I will make sure that he gets adequately paid and rewarded and celebrated and get him addicted to the lifestyle that he'll never get working as an employee for anyone else.
Keep him locked up. There's business strategy number one.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Don't let your employees leave.
High performers, just get them a good little ankle bracelet, the kind you solder on, and make the chain long enough that they can get all the way to the buffet table, and you'll be fine. You'll never leave.
It's funny. I just made some new hires, and I said, I'm looking for people that are going to leave me, and that they're so smart that this is just a stepping stone to their next thing. And I know that they'll leave. The ones that want to stick around forever probably aren't a good fit.
Yeah. And as an employer, and actually I've made him a partner in the business, which is an interesting...
That's one way to keep him around.
Well, you know what? I want to tell that story because that touches on a couple of things that we're going to be talking about. So first of all, I met him when he was a freshman in college. And we met on a bus. I was taking the bus down to New York, and he was going back to school from visiting his parents. And this child sits down in the seat next to me, and he looks at me with a serious expression and introduces himself. And I say, so, what do you do? And he said, I'm a journalist. And then he said, actually, I'm a journalism student, but I find if I think of myself as a journalist, I hold myself to higher standards.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, excuse me? A 19-year-old just said that?
Yeah.
I mean, most 50-year-olds haven't figured that out. And by the way, you'll notice what he said, it's my identity as a journalist and conforming and performing and delivering up to that identity that's the thing that has me do even better work. So I got to know him, and I started subcontracting out writing work to him, and he did a pretty good job. I mean, he would get stuff back, and when he didn't do a pretty good job, I could give him feedback. I could give him books to read on the particular style of writing that I wanted, and he would take and continues to take feedback like a champ. Like he just takes it as information and changes what he's doing, and boom, it's perfect 2 or 3 iterations later. And so this was going so well that I started confiding with him what some of my future plans for the business were. And one day he called me up and said, "Hey, Stever." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I've decided to cancel my foreign semester abroad." I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Because I want to stay and work with you on the business." And I said, "Matt, I can't let you do that for 2 reasons. Number one, you will never again in your life get a chance to do a foreign year abroad with a group of your peers who are all in the same developmental stage. Even if you're a billionaire, you'll never be able to do this because you can't. There's no way to get the community that's all like in this exploration, identity defining moment. So number one, it's an irreplaceable experience, and I can't let you skip that for a job. And number two, I can't even guarantee that we're going to be profitable enough to pay you anything, much less pay you enough to afford your rent and your tuition." And he looked at me or over the phone, but I could imagine how he would look at me. And he was very earnest. And he said, "Stever, I need to tell you a couple of things." And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, yes, oh, wise one. Do enlighten me. And he said, "Well, first of all, it's not your decision to make." And I was like, ouch, okay. And he said, "Secondly, you're talking to me as if the success of the business is a favor that you have to do for me. And if I'm here and I'm working on it, then either we are making it work or we aren't. But either way, it's as much on me as it is on you. So don't think that you have to deliver a successful business to me. We will deliver a successful business."
Does he have a brother or sister?
Well, yes, he does. And I had the same reaction. And of course, the funny part is he had no idea how unbelievably rare that attitude is. I can count on one hand the number of people in my life who have said things like that. What most people say is things like, I'm really excited about your idea. I can totally buy into the vision. So let's go ahead and put together an employment contract that gives me a bunch of guaranteed upfront money regardless of how I perform, a golden parachute, and stock that starts vesting today. And then if I show up and don't do the work, at least I'll be able to land on my feet.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? So I came back to him and I said, okay, point's taken. It's not my decision to make. And I said, furthermore, if you stay here, I only want you to stay here as a partner because you are demonstrating a level of commitment to the business that I ethically and this is just my own thing. I'm not going to recommend this as a general practice, but I said ethically, I can't ask you to work here with that attitude without also giving you some chunk of the upside.
Yeah.
Because you have clearly adopted our success as your success. And I can't think of there are people who have killed to try to find anyone who will do that. The number one thing I get when I'm coaching CEOs, they say, how can I make my employees act like owners? And the answer is you can't. They're employees.
Yeah.
Unless you make them owners, in which case they'll act like owners.
Maybe.
They may act like owners. That's another thing. But so anyway, so I grabbed him. Now the reason that I tell this story is twofold. One is he instinctively knows how to use his own identity to make himself accomplish amazing things. So he noticed the identity as a journalism student is not as powerful as the identity as a journalist. So boom, he's going to adopt the more powerful identity, which is the identity as a journalist. And then the other is really when we talk about blind spots and things, he is walking in with a whole framing of, I am going to make this as much about me as it is about you, and we're going to do it together. Now, keep in mind, by this time, I'd already seen the quality of his work, and I was convinced he could deliver. This was not, he didn't walk in cold and say this. I said that level, that attitude is one that can't be trained. Either someone has got it or they don't. They may learn it, but I don't want them to learn it at my expense.
Sure.
I want them to learn it elsewhere.
And to have that wisdom at such a young age is amazing.
One of the weird things about him, and which is why I'm slightly convinced that he might be a mutant from another planet, is his instincts about how to run business, despite the fact that he has almost never worked in business at all. Just the solutions he comes up with correspond to business best practices and things that I didn't learn until after business school. And he just makes them up, and he pretty consistently makes them up right. He has an intuitive understanding of business and an intuitive understanding of people and how people work.
It sounds like he has a sense of responsibility, and if it's to be, it's going to be up to me, and I'm going to do it. The world doesn't owe me something. I'm going to go out and I'm going to give it my all.
Absolutely. And like you, he is absolutely convinced of anything he sets his mind to, he'll do. And of course, that's not literally true, that anything one sets one's mind, anything you set your mind to or he does. But if you act that way, and if you act from that belief, you will certainly give it your all. Whereas if your belief is, this might work, then at the first sign that it won't, you're not necessarily going to say, oh my God, I'm going to make it work. What you're going to say instead is, well, I only thought it might, and clearly it doesn't, so I'll go on to something else. Yeah. So the attitudes and beliefs that you have really drive the results that you get.
Share with the listener how they can get a hold of you, some of the things that you're doing, and some of the resources you might be able to help them with.
Absolutely. Well, you can find me at steverrobbins.com. That's STEVERROBBINS.com. And you can reach me through that website. You can find my podcast, which is the Get It Done Guy podcast. In fact, if you just go to getitdoneguy.com, that will redirect to my website, to the resource site for the Get It Done Guy, which then has a link straight to the podcast, because the podcast you have to subscribe in iTunes. The podcast you have to subscribe in iTunes, or Spotify. The other thing that you can do, and we didn't really talk about this, we didn't talk about this a whole lot, but if you would like to get the theme of my business right now is called Living an Extraordinary Life, and I would love to say that it's a woo-woo self-help business that's light and fluffy. It's not self-help. It's not a woo-woo self-help business. What I'm developing is a whole curriculum for how do you develop skills like the expected value skills to be able to spot and recognize opportunity and do it in a really, really rigorous way, where you understand how to create environments where you're likely to have a lot of luck, how to recognize it, how to jump on it, and then how to integrate all of that with the rest of your life, so overall you have a life that you enjoy. Because since discovering that business school did not in fact tell me how to apply the tools that I learned to my life in general, I have decided that someone needs to do that, and that may as well be me. And if you would like to watch my presentation called Living an Extraordinary Life, in which I dissect some of the beliefs that we have about how the world works, and I claim that those beliefs are in fact in many ways dysfunctional, and I will just give you a teaser. One of the beliefs is work hard and you'll get ahead. And I believe that is a very dysfunctional and bad belief in some ways. If you would like to get some information on that and also sign up for my newsletter, you can text the word extraordinary, EXTRAORDINARY, as in extraordinary life. Text the word extraordinary to 33444, and it will send you back. You then have to send it your email address, and it will send you back a link to listen to my Living an Extraordinary Life presentation. And you can listen at regular speed, and it takes an hour, or you can listen to it at double speed, and it takes half an hour. And I really go through and I examine what are some of the beliefs that factor into success that, at least in my experience, are more about myth and telling a good story than they are about actual beliefs that lead to success. And I then, of course, follow up and say, let's try these different set of beliefs, and surprise, here's what happens when I tried them, or here's what happened when I tried them, because I did a controlled experiment because I believe in that kind of thing.
That is incredible. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're at the end of the interview, but before I let you go, we have a little ritual here, and it's a couple of quick questions. In 1873, Cattleman designed a .22 revolver with 12 shots. You're going to have 12 questions to answer in 2 minutes. Why 2 minutes? Peak performers, if they have something to do and they can get it done in 2 minutes, they just knock it out. So, are you ready to execute?
I am ready to execute.
Awesome. The most meaningful book you've ever read?
Loving What Is by Byron Katie.
Most impactful speaker you've ever heard, and what did he or she say?
Richard Bandler, and it's not what he said. He's the inventor of the field of NLP, and I saw him give a talk to people and then have the people get up and go out and perform a skill that they were unable to do beforehand. And somehow what he did in that speech did it.
He is a master. Most useful app you're currently using?
Most useful app, Scanner Pro by Readdle, and I use that to track receipts.
Name the skill you have that you're most proud of.
The ability to go into a situation and figure out what the most important levers are to change it.
The number one thing you'd like to learn in the next 6 months.
How to make $1 million in 6 months.
One thing that you were told that turned out to be the most true.
It's all about who you know.
Name a profession you'd like to attempt other than your own.
Boy, I would like to have the body to attempt webcammer. I have a friend who's pulling in $500,000 a year as a webcammer. I'm like, you're joking. It's like, no, he's like, way better than anything I was trained to do. I was like, that just sounds like the perfect job in so many ways. But, you know, if you want a G-rated answer, I'll come up with one of those too.
Well, cut me in. We'll go in as partners. Your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
I have been really involved in the Burning Man community, and I like helping out at the local regional burns.
Oh, that is something on my bucket list. It just always seems to happen at the wrong time of the year. The one thing you must do every single day.
Brush my teeth.
Name the best decision in business you've ever made.
Co-founding a company and not understanding how stock was allocated, so we gave all of ourselves way more stock than we should have.
Great. I thought you were going to mention the new guy.
Oh, actually, well, we don't have the results aren't in yet in terms of the actual business outcome, but yeah, that he'd be pretty high on the list.
Awesome. Name the one thing that you did poorly or not so great last year, but you do it better this year.
Wow. Yeah. That would probably. Oh, for sure. That would be sales.
Awesome. How old were you when you knew you could be successful?
I don't think there was ever a time I didn't think I could be. I just always assumed it.
Awesome. That finishes the rapid fire execution round, and you did finish it in under 2 minutes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, I have one last question for you. I can't let you go before I ask this question. If you had the ability to go back and talk to the 13-year-old Stever, what would you tell him?
Wow. With respect to any particular thing?
Anything. You just had the ability to, now knowing what you know, to go back and just have a conversation.
You know, I would probably, if I were giving him career advice, I would say go into sales before you do anything else. If I were giving him romantic advice, I would say you're a really handsome young man, because I never knew that, and it took me 30 years to figure that out. And if I were giving him, sort of overall social friendship advice, etc., I would say it's way easier to find a job or to start a company than it is to find your tribe. So, find your tribe first, start your company second, rather than the other way around.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. I know you were extremely busy. Congratulations on everything that you've done. The podcast is absolutely amazing. And thanks for sharing the additional resources with the listeners.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. We look forward to having you on again. Have a great day.
Look forward to it.
Being a peak performer is all about execution. Think of those people that you know that you consider peak performers. Some have had great plans. Some are really smart. Some just have natural talent, and others are highly educated. But the one thing that they all have in common, and I don't even know who you're thinking about, they all know how to execute. If they can't execute, they would not be considered a peak performer. Everybody has dreams, but peak performers actually execute them. This applies on the field, in athletics, or in the boardroom. If you're a business owner, a coach, an entrepreneur, or a corporate executive, and you're frustrated and tired of knowing what to do, but you just can't seem to get it all done, or your results are inconsistent, or maybe you're really good at execution, but your team doesn't know how to execute. Are you missing budget? Are you working 80 hours a week, and it seems like you're just banging your head up against the wall every day? I know I've been there. Are you not making the kind of money that you want and deserve? I have a program that just might be the answer for you. This program is not for everyone. We go deep, we get raw, we get real. But if you're truly committed to mastering execution and for the first time truly being able to execute on what you know as opposed to just trying to figure out more information and looking for that secret, we will teach you to become a master of execution. We'll teach you the science of getting things done. Simply take your phone and text the word BE Summit, one word, to 41411. That's Business Execution Summit. The keyword, BE Summit, that's what you text, and text it to 41411. Remember, it's not what you know. It's not even who you know. It's about what you're able to execute. That's what truly matters. Don't let another month, another quarter, or another year slip by with just average results. Text today. Thank you for listening. If you haven't already done so, please head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Also, please share this with family, friends, coworkers, or anyone that could benefit from this information. To make it very easy to share these episodes, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode that you want to share, and you can post it to your timeline. You just might be helping one of your friends on Facebook by sharing it on your page. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. The email is info@thorconklin. While at the website, please sign up for our weekly newsletter with additional tricks, tips, tools, and psychology on how to be a peak performer. Remember, these episodes are anywhere between 6 and 35 minutes and are meant to be consumed during dot time doing other things. Until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.